Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for tuning in to open up the listen. Dominique is not with us today. He has some other obligations, but we're going to talk about automated money. And that's going to really, that kind of segue into automation. I have a phenomenal automation guy, specialist, senior tech specialist, whatever you want to call him. Let's go talk about this industry and really talk about where it's going. I know we've been having a lot of conversations about AI and automating a lot of different things. And I brought somebody on to really speak on that stuff so it can make it easier and see where the money is in the game and where people are losing money. So I'm gonna pass it to Brian. Let him introduce himself.
Yep. So I'm Brian Brevard from SS Automation. I've been in automation for about 14, 15 years now. So I'm just kind of ready to basically elaborate and kind of go through these lists, right, and answer a lot of these questions so that people know kind of which way automation is trending and how they can be a part of it.
Yeah, and my name is Kendall. I'm actually I guess the podcast host since Dominique is not here. And what I do is I'm a finance guy, so I like to look at the numbers and everything. And I have run a consultant company called You Can Consulting. I'm a financial coach that really help people get their finances in line so then they can invest in stuff like automation or real estate. My backing is in real estate, but this is not about me. This is about automation. We're trying to automate some money. So I'm trying to figure out what I can do, where I can park some money or where I can make some money off of the automation industry. So first question, let's get started is, and I want to thank Dominique for letting us use this platform. He's not here today, but we got to thank him. If it wasn't for him, probably wouldn't be here. First question is, what is automation? Break it down to him.
Well, I mean, just the standard definition of automation, right? Um, is just taking a process and making it so that it can do its own thing, right? Um, so at the end of the day, you have something that has to be done, whether it's a software process, whether it's a agent that you want to run and read your emails, whether it's, inbound to outbound in the warehouse. That whole process nowadays is actually automated. So we're gonna kind of get into what those branches are. But for right now, automation is just creating a streamlined process to complete a task that takes a lot of hands off.
Got you. So we're gonna go run into the next one. Is like, why automation? Why did you choose automation? Why should somebody choose automation? Like, let's dig into it.
So I've been an engineer for like a degreed engineer probably since 2016, 2017, something around there. So, I've been a degreed engineer for about 9 or 10 years, right? I've been doing automation since around 2009 when I got my associates. Um, and I just enjoy like the background of bringing things to life. Out of all of the different automations there are, industrial automation is literally seeing something that you program come to life in front of you, right? It runs a physical process, whether it's welding a bumper on a car, painting it, right? Or moving pallets down, a conveyor system. All of that's physical movement. You get to see it come to life. On the software side and the AI side, you may not be able to really see what you're doing, but on this side, you actually get to bring life into process, which is really cool.
Wow. So that's sounds like something very. It takes a lot of studying and it's different jobs. Which ties me to the next question: is
Yep.
what kind of jobs are being created as the automation expands?
So I believe right now, if you kind of tiered the list, I know we'll probably have a question, or we might have kind of compiled this into the same question. Is first and foremost, I believe more like maintenance techs actually are being created, right? That's kind of the foundational layer. If you don't have people that can maintain the systems, there's really no point to automate these systems. Okay. Um, Secondly, what would be the most in demand? is controls engineers, right? Controls engineers are the guys who go out there and program and do all of that other stuff in the background to bring the system to life. And then you have robotics engineers, and then on the back end of that, you have software engineers and IT that come into play to set up the networks or set up the databases so that we get the information we need for the supply lines and everything like that, or for us to send data to so that it can store and find where things need to get put away, or hey, how many parts have been processed, things like that, because all of this at general manufacturing plants are actually shown to the operators, which they call like OEE and stuff like that, where they get to see how their performance is, and they kind of have a pace that they have to run at. But all of this is done kind of through the background, through the process, right? So it takes all three layers for that information to kind of traverse and to be valid information, right? And then AI can sit on top of that to do predictive things, right? So everything is kind of being smushed together, where we're really all really having to work together now a lot more than in the past, where it's not just a one-off machine in the corner somewhere that we're programming, and it's not just a database that has all of this data and we don't have it. It's everything is being integrated, even in smaller plants now.
So you're saying like basically technicians is kind of gonna be the next big thing in the market. Like everybody's gonna need the person to set it up, but once it's set up, who's gonna be the person to make sure that it keeps
Yeah.
going and actually grows with the company? Because a company's process may be this way today, but this way tomorrow, and you have to
Right.
have that technician that be able to change that. Wow, that's interesting. I know with a lot going on in the world, automation is a lot. I went to an automation conference, the one you invited me to, and I didn't know that Royal Caribbean is doing their bartenders is automated. McDonald's is doing the automation when it comes to making the burgers. Like the
It's
stuff is
out there. It's definitely out there.
it's transitioning really fast. And I mean, even with Amazon, if they wanted to be fully automated, they could, but how many people would be upset if they went fully automated and it didn't involve people? So their systems is so like advanced that I know if they was to remove a human being from it, it'll probably be a faster process. But they don't want
Got to create a labor force. You really do, right? I mean, and obviously we'll talk about that a little bit deeper as we go into this conversation. Yeah, most
to.
definitely.
All right, the next one is what are the most profitable niches in automation, from SaaS platforms to robotics, hardware to consulting? Like, where is you see the money?
So, it's funny you say that, right? I think that's a very good question, right? SaaS platforms are there, right? AWS is, a very large SaaS process, right? And because it's a service that they sell, right? Um, but if you're looking for as a personal income to yourself, I would believe everything that I've done and why my title is what it is consulting is definitely where the money is, right? Um, but a lot of people don't realize to get to that type of title or to where people truly trust your background and experience, that you have to be the one to have shown up in the past, right? Before it was consultant, it was engineer, right? And it has to be that way, because if you can't get people to buy in and believe that you are that guy, they always want to call you Superman and thanks for saving the day and so forth and so on. But that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to get to that level. But if I moved away from just being an entrepreneur trying to build a business and have a business partner, have employees, if I just wanted to do this by myself with my background right now, I could easily probably make $300,000-$400,000 a year, right?
Wow,
As a consultant. Yeah. Now, don't get it wrong. You're gonna be on the road. You're gonna be on the road.
you definitely are going to be on the road because it sounds like it's a very tedious process. and it can get boring at times. But I tell people all the time, when you get bored, you master something, and that's where you make your money. But
Yeah.
if you get bored and then you jump into something else and
I
don't
got bored and started hopping into robotics. That's what I
yeah,
did.
but
But
stay
I
in
mean,
your lane. Like you
but
got your cash cow, and you
yeah,
can always go back to it, and you still keep a little, the understanding. But some people get bored and be like, I've been a nurse for 3 years. I'm sick of it. I'm about to quit, and I'm gonna go be a real estate attorney, I mean, not attorney, a real estate agent. It's like,
yeah,
nah, don't switch that up. Keep both. Like you got
nah,
bored, you good at it. Like find a way to make more money. So that's what I tell people when you get bored, just try to
nah.
do.
I know people been doing this for 30 years, right? Like
Yeah,
you can definitely plateau, right? And I think sometimes it gets frustrating where I am at this point in time is because it does feel like you're doing the same thing just in different places. And the challenge that was there, 5, 6 years ago isn't really there anymore. You still have the long hours, but at this point in time, you're generally just you're doing the work, but a lot of times you're teaching people.
yeah,
You're helping people grow. You're sitting down explaining why. So it's taking you that little extra time, even though you can do it a lot quicker now, right?
yeah.
What used to take 8 hours now takes 2 hours, but you're also there for another 4 hours explaining to people, hey, if you do it this way, then I don't have to come back. Or if you do it this way, you don't have to call me, right? So those are kind of the things that I've learned. Like I was on site today and the guy was like, every time y'all come, I just learned so much more, right?
Yeah.
About the systems that I have to support. So I think there's definitely money to be made in this space, but I think it also comes down to your name in the space, how you network, and what clients are willing to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes to the next question. I'm going to put that up on the screen is how much can someone expect to earn in different automation roles, like entry level to senior engineering to system architect? Like, let's dig into the money. Everybody want to know how much can I make in this space? And then, I mean, you can even touch on, I mean, later I do have a question about like how to get into the space.
Yeah, and
Uh,
we'll get to that because I was gonna start saying that, but yeah, we'll get to that point. So entry level, I'd say anywhere between 65 to 75 coming out of school. I don't think is a reach at all. Um, as far as moving to the kind of that mid tier, probably about 4 or 5 years in, if you're working corporate, right, like for an integration company or for like let's say a Walmart or something like that, you're probably right around 110, 115. I don't think that's really a bad thing at that point in time. You have full health care, you got benefits, you got 401k match, things of that nature. I think as you go up though, I mean, I get job offers all the time for 130, 150, right? Fine, I can do more myself and I don't have to deal with being under you or you telling me what to do. I kind of pick and choose the work I do at this point, right? But I want people to see beyond that,
mm,
right? The automation and stuff is really cool. But there are roles that are beyond that if you take this route, kind of put you on a track for. And what I mean by that is more like project management or moving into like a director role for like director of engineering, things of those, caliber. And when you get to those, you're asking for 200,000 a year plus equity,
mm,
right? You're getting more value. You're getting bonuses and other things like that. Don't get me wrong. You can make the 130,000 plus 20, $30,000 bonus, as a senior controls engineer. That is not unheard of at all. Plus you're getting your per diems, right? So you can easily do 180,000 a year. That's you put in 10 years, you can easily get to that level. It just depends what you're willing to do. But I would definitely get once you solidified your technical background, I'd start understanding business, get my PMP, and
mm.
start moving into those managerial, at least mid management, right? Because at that point in time, you have a lot more freedom and you have the ability to even traverse outside of automation into software and other companies.
Gotcha.
Because at that point in time, you know the process on how things are developed, how things are made. There's not a big difference when it comes to what you're doing from the controls development to the software development. So if
Hmm.
you can run a controls team that develops, code sets and standards for other companies, moving into a software role or a senior software manager at a different company isn't the biggest transition, right? You just adjust your lingo just a little bit. You study for about a month that specific code set so that you can hear kind of the terms and stuff that you're going to use that are kind of analogous to each other, and you'd make a very easy transition. So it gives you a lot of ability to. You don't have a lot of mobility as a senior controls engineer, right?
Mm.
You can make a lot of money, but you don't have a lot of mobility. But soon as you move into that managerial role, you have a lot more mobility company to company. And you'll
Got
never get a bigger raise than when you go somewhere else. I'm gonna be honest with you.
They say you should only stay there 2 years and start looking, because then you make more leaving than you will staying.
Yep.
So you're saying, so at an entry level, how much does someone expect to make? Like, what's the number?
About 72. I think that's a really good
Just to
estimate.
start. So
Yep.
some people only make it 35 and just 72.
Yep. 72,000. Yeah. I think that's a real,
Wow.
out of the box number. I think I made 90 my first year.
Wow. Did y'all hear
Yeah.
that? 72. 72. And that's going to segue to the next best question. How accessible an industry to someone without a traditional engineering or tech background? So how can somebody get into this? Do they have to go through a 4 year, or can they go to a trade and make that, like, what? How can I, starting today, make 72 soon?
So this is what I would say. I know the traditional route is going and getting the 4 year engineering, degree. And I did that, right? But I also had a background as a technician before and so forth and so on. But if you're coming from technician, those have been some of the best engineers I've ever seen. Right? Like it just, you know, I have that type of background. Most of our engineers have that type of background. My business partner has that type of background where we all started either from the integrator space kind of technician or from the manufacturing, the OEM space technician, where we've had to work with maintenance, where we've had to, turn wrenches and do wiring and stuff like that. But you just have a lot better understanding of, number one, the structure of the people that you're going to deal with and who you're fighting for every day when you're doing the work. But you also understand the scope of where they are to where it's going to cross over. So if you come from a technician background, right, whether it's mechanical or electrical, and you really learn how to program and you have a very good understanding of that, I think that's an easy transition. And I've seen the most skilled people come out of that way. Like unless you're a savant when it comes to programming, most of these kids coming out of engineering school is just not they're not that guy yet. They
Mm.
can be. But if you put them head to head to a technician that then went and did like a 2 year school just to learn some programming, or sent them some classes and stuff where they already had an understanding of electrical and mechanical, they just gonna kind of run circles around them at least for the first couple years.
Wow. So it's better to, like you said, go to the tech background and then
Yeah,
work your way up to the traditional engineering.
yeah,
But you can still learn those basics to
mm,
get you in and get those certificates to get in to make that money. Because, I
yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, I tell people experience matters. If I
It
had to pick somebody that came straight out of college and somebody that actually been doing it for a while,
100%.
it matters, because I'm gonna have to overtrain the person coming out of college versus the person that come is just like, hey, what do you know so far? What don't you know?
I mean, if let's say that I was hiring a controls engineer and a controls technician, right? I would probably for 6 months have the controls technician study everything I expect my controls engineer to do,
Yeah.
and vice versa. Because a lot of engineers don't understand the scope of what the technician has to understand, especially when it gets to the root and the foundational things on how things work. And then, you extract just a little bit, you make it abstract just a little bit, and you give that to the controls technicians where they have a very good foundation, and you give them, how you do algorithms or how you programming something a little bit more complicated. And that's where you get very, very well-rounded individuals. Very well-rounded individuals. But I take a technician almost any day, to be honest with you.
All right, now we're gonna get into some meat and potatoes. Can you describe a process that you automated from start to finish?
Oh, mostly from start to finish. A lot of times, like I kind of piggyback on other people's work, or they call me when it's already too far gone and they want me to start. Right. But I was actually working on this process for sealing, UV sealing the Bronco hardtops.
Mm,
And I got there and the robots hadn't been trained. This was the first time I was dealing with robots, right? Like I've integrated two robots, but I had never programmed robots. So they gave me like a 2-day crash course and said, "Here you go, right? You got two robots that need to do these intricate things, right? Because we're doing this spray application where it's coming out like a cone, right? A funnel, and I'm having to trace a line that's probably this big, and the cone is about that big, right? And we're not trying to get any spray under the part and all of this other stuff, right? So I redesigned the whole process. At first, we were using RFID, but we could sense the RFID even outside of the cell. So we changed it to a scanner process, did all of the scanners, printed new labels, reprogrammed the conveyor system, programmed 13 different parts on both different robots to spray all and seal all of those. And then we adjusted the spray process where instead of it being conical like this, we actually got it down to where I'm actually shooting like a jet like this, tracing the line. And instead of like, I think we cut like material usage and process time by 40%.
wow, that's a big cut, y'all.
I mean, per part, that's a really big cut. And we had this UV oven, had to recalibrate the UV oven. I mean, there was just so much stuff in that process, and we took it, we took over, and we knocked it out. And again, like that, I said that was like the first time, I had really done robots. Like I said, I've integrated, done the communication between us and them, so forth and so on. And we even did something like that with like timing charts in our shop. And it's just really cool to design processes. And I enjoy it a lot, right? We get a lot of things that people want us to design and integrate, and we do that. But as far as just being out in the field, being sent somewhere to kind of do that process from scratch, I mean, when I got there might have been 5 functions in the PLC. When I left, there were like, 14, 15 different ones that handle all the data collection, all of the process for tracking all the information, the Pokeyokes, everything. Like, I mean, we kind of rewrote all of that from scratch. And when I say we, I just mean me, but it just felt like I was doing it for a lot of people because
Yeah,
they had me between like 3, 4 different plants. So yeah, I think when you get to a certain level, because I always see there being 3 levels in automation, especially industrial automation, is you have your troubleshooter. That's the person who can come in and he can flip a bit or change a little bit of code and make something work. You don't
yeah,
expect him to write code. You don't expect him to add devices and do this or make little small codes. That's what you expect him to do. And then your next level is your programmer, right? The guy that can say, "Hey, I want to add these cameras to this system. I want to do this. I want to change the process a little bit." That's your programmer, right? That's your everyday programmer. That's about as much depth as you truly need to be a programmer.
yeah,
But I've kind of got to the level where I'm more like a developer, where we can sit down and you can tell me what you want your system to do. There's no system in front of me. We sit down, we write a list, we create the SRS, the system requirement spec, and you say, it shall do this, it shall do this, it shall do this. And then we design everything, including the code set. We get the bill of materials. We work with our mechanical teams. Like we design from scratch what you're asking for, right?
wow.
And that's when you create your own thing. And it's a lot more complicated, but it's not the hardest thing over time. Because over time you seen what good automation looks like and bad
Yeah.
automation. So you know what to use when you need to use it.
Wow. So let's segue to the next questions. How do you determine if a process is worth automating?
Oh, easy. It's only 3 letters, and you know them letters better than me. What do you think I'm gonna say them letters are? Because it's the only reason you invest in anything.
ROI.
You know it. So back in the day, ROI used to be more like a 4-year, 5-year turnaround. Now a lot of companies are expecting 2. So the issue with that is for a 2-year ROI, you either need to cut a lot of labor. I mean, a lot of labor, or you have a lot smaller project, right? Like those are the only 2 trade-offs between the two. Um, and that's what a lot of companies have started doing. Instead of taking these huge, massive projects, they've been starting to be a lot more incremental, where it's process improvement. They have a fixed budget. We sit down and we say either this is going to make your process faster, cheaper, XYZ. It's going to require less manpower, and your labor rate, your scrap rate, your whatever is costing you X per year. If we can times that by 2 and this system can cost that or less, are you willing to buy it? Because we have to sell them the same way on that ROI, right? We know what the cost of automation is, and we've had customers say, yeah, we want it done for this, and we're like, it's not possible. Right? Like, I don't care who you get to do it. I know we're a small company, but I don't care who you get to do it. They're not going to be able to do it well for that price. They may be able to do it for some approximate number, probably 50% in range of that, not at your number, but 50% above. But if you putting out a real number, we can do real work. But if you're not putting out a real number, we're not going to waste our time on that, because there's so much that goes into getting paid in this industry. So a lot of service industries, you get paid at time of service, right? You get somebody to go do a house call and fix your plumbing. You're supposed to pay your plumber before they leave. With us, that's not how it is, because most of our work is B2B. So we are stuck on net terms and milestones on how we get paid. So originally on the onset of that contract, you discuss what those terms are. Hey, 20% up front to buy the material, 10% upon arrival, 50% upon, beneficial completion, another X whatever when the punch list and everything else is done and you feel like you have the complete system, right? And obviously it varies, those percentages. I'm just putting random numbers out there, right? But those milestones are what traps a lot of your money. And a lot of customers, I hate to say it, don't pay on time. So you're already at net 45, net 60. So you're already 2 months behind on labor and material. Plus they pay late another 30 days. So you're basically net 90 at that point. So you're floating 3 months of labor. So unless you're doing this by yourself and you're not really holding any material, if they're not trying to pay what you asked for, it's not really worth doing the job.
Because you already know they ain't gonna be able to pay you.
So, those are the things that you really have to look out for, right? Like one of our customers screwed us on like 80,000, right, earlier this year. I mean, it is what it is. So what do you do about that? You just keep it pushing and try to make sure that you don't get caught in that position, again, right? But as far as, can you bring up that question one more time? Because I'm just trying to kind of nip that into the point. And then, yeah, so as far as automating the process, it's all about the value that's being added or the cost that's being subtracted. But if you can do both, they'll write a check immediately. If you can add value and cheapen the cost, they'll write a check. That's for sure.
For the listeners, ROI means return on investment. So it's like, how long am I going to get my money back from investing in putting this process together? And
Yep.
that's what he said. The 2 to 3 years used to be 4 to 5, and then the net terms is like, when am I going to be paid? So net 30 is like after 30 days or before 30 days, right in that window, I should be getting paid. Some people is usually when they say net 30, that means like they're like 31st day, 32nd,
Yeah.
33rd. But it can be before 30 or it can be at 30, but that's where it's supposed to be, or net 60 or net 90. But people stretch a little bit, but a lot of people write in a late fee term. If
Yep.
it's later than 5 days, you pay a 10% premium, blah, 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 blah. So that's what he's talking about with ROI and net terms. And as milestones, it's like once I get done with this part, then I get paid this amount, 10%. Then I get done with like it's milestones, like to get it to the end of the process. And milestones, I like, I don't know which one you think is better, the milestones or the net 30 after you finish, because the
So
milestones keep you working harder to get it done. But if it's like, all right, if I just get done, I can just get my payment after 30 days. I'm done. Do I just need to put? So it's like I feel like the milestones is the little bit it get people working a little bit more.
I'll say in automation, it's always both. We're always fixed at whatever net terms that vendor pays out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that even is in regards to the milestone. So let's say that it's net 30, but the day we complete this milestone is on like the first of the month. If I invoice, let's say on the second of the month, right? Because now I verified the work has been done and so
Yeah.
forth and so on. Then 30 days after that invoice, I get paid for milestone one, right? And it just keeps
Oh,
going that way. But what we started doing, especially if we're fronting a lot of labor, is asking for like 20 to 30% upfront before we even arrive.
yeah.
And that way we have at least enough to cover like the hotel and stuff. It may not cover the labor, but it'll cover the travel cost and stuff like that, or any like, small material that they need to bring with them, the flights for them to get there, so forth. And so on, because I will tell you in this industry, you travel. There's no sitting at home. You travel. I'm in Charlotte right now.
Yeah.
You travel.
Yeah. Y'all hear
Yeah.
that? So don't think you go make 72,000 and not travel, but you go
Yeah.
travel. So
I've been in about 20 states this year. That's all I
you
said.
already
Like,
in August, early August.
that's what I'm saying. So, I've even been to Montreal this year, right? Like, so, but it just all depends, right? And I would say if you're a younger person getting into it, when you get a few years of experience, I would start reaching out to the ones that have more global reach, because then you can start traveling to like I got an offer like 4 or 5 years ago where I got on the phone. They were like, you can have this job. Like, we won't interview any other candidates, and you'll basically be traveling like all through Asia and like Europe and everything. Like, but you'll always be going, but you'll always be somewhere cool, right? Like, you won't go to no little village. Like, we gonna send you to like Tokyo, and
Yeah.
I was like, if I wasn't in the position I was at that point in time, I would have definitely, right, because I've had some cool opportunities, like 6 months in Italy. Like, I've had really cool opportunities in this field. So if it's not so much about money, but having a lifestyle and exploring the world by getting paid to do so, that opportunity is here too. That's
Wow.
for sure.
So you hear that, youngins? Like if you ready to get out of your parents' house, travel the world, see the world for a couple years before you start your family, automation might be something to consider.
Yeah.
So reach out.
It really is. It really is.
Let me
Yeah.
add. Okay, so how would you define the current state of the automation industry? I know it's changing with the AI and the robots and the humans, less humans. Like where are we going? Like
I mean, I'm not going to say no names, but people can infer on who I'm talking about. There's definitely somebody that has a lot of Tesla shares, that don't really want to work force.
yeah,
Okay, they want to automate everything. And if enough people champion that idea, you will have a lot more poverty in very modernized or manufacturing based cities. That
mm,
I will say. Especially if you took it somewhere like Vegas, or you got rid of most of your workforce in Detroit. Like, I mean, I'm just being honest. Like, it can really flip very quickly. You don't need a dealer at a poker table. You don't.
yeah.
I mean, you don't need a waitress to bring you your drink. You've seen the little ones that just ride around and be like, "Here you go," and we can track you on the machine you playing. So it's not, and that lets us pivot to know where you go when you move machine to machine. So it's not. There's a lot of things that you can do and automate to get rid of people, and that is really kind of what they want to do. That's why it's good to be prepared, at least at the next quote unquote operator level, which is going to be the technician, because
Mm,
operators are going to go away in the next 10 to 15 years. 80% of operators is what I see getting cut
it's a big number.
because they don't need to be there. And it's not like I'm not talking about anybody's livelihood. I'm just telling you, I can see what's coming. And I'd rather say that now, kind of be the whistleblower and let people make their adjustments and give them time to do that, telling you 10 years ahead of time. If you don't hear it now, I don't know what you want from me. Or you can sit there and think that's gonna be your livelihood for forever. Like we've seen people, live at these plants generationally.
Mm,
Be 3, 4 generations in at that same plant doing the same job. That job's not going to exist in 20 years. It's not. There's no value to pay for people that have problems and people that call out or people that just have life happen. If I can have a robot do it that's not going to sit there and smoke a cigarette, right? On a break, take no breaks. Needs some maintenance, yeah, but it's going to work whether the lights are on or off. Think about how much, if you go into a 1,000,000 square foot plant, how much just the lights being on costs. And you can turn the lights out for most of that.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you're saving power. You're As long as you can do planned downtime, then you can have planned maintenance. I mean, and even on top of that, I mean, planned maintenance, they might literally just contract a company and just have a maintenance crew go through the planned maintenance schedule and have one crew take care of 4 or 5 local plants.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, the reason why these companies still have people is because they want to have people. And I don't think people realize that. If you were looking at the financials for Ford, and I was when they were talking about the strike and everything like that with the UAW, basically Ford was making like $1 billion a quarter in profit, something like that. So they were doing like 12 billion or 16 billion a year in
Yeah.
revenue. And everybody's like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot. That is not enough money to allow people to increase wages by 40% and still have the ability to go buy new plants and create more jobs. There's not one of those plants costs $800 million.
Yeah.
So if that's your quarter profit, how are you explaining that to the shareholders? Something that's going to take you 3 or 4 years to build, plus a quarter of your profit for the year.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to justify, but when people hear $1 billion, they're like, "Oh, that's so much money." That's not a large number when you're talking about a global conglomerate.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for a medium-sized business.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of money when you have 50,000, 100,000 employees. So I think people need to get those numbers into perspective.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, and what the cost of doing business is, and what hits the auto industry has taken, especially with some of these new initiatives where they're cutting down the clean energy and stuff like that. They have companies like GM and stuff like that that stop midway building the plant for the EV. I mean, think about how many jobs were lost just on that. They had just went out. You have to understand, when you're building a plant, you're already out there trying to hire and get people ready to come to that plant. So you're generally probably training them at a different plant to on board them to bring them there.
Yeah. And then you also got to take accountability to error.
Yeah,
Like human error is higher than a robot,
I
and
know.
you can actually project a robot's error. because it's like every what they may say every 50 uses, you, there's a chance you may get an error. So it's
Yeah, I
like
mean,
every 50 we go check
yeah. I mean,
it.
you have like welding tips, right? So we have like weld clean tips. Like every 10 cycles or 15 cycles, it automatically swaps tips or cleans itself, right? I mean, you have all of these processes, but AI sits on the back of that, right? And sits on the database side. And it looks at all the data coming in and said, hey, that ain't running as quick as it normally used to run.
Yeah.
That's probably about to fail. And then they'll send maintenance down there to go check it or replace it. There's been certain companies that like to run stuff into the ground. And I know certain companies that do that. And then I've seen
Care about
certain
the quality.
companies,
And don't care about
yeah.
the quality. Go ahead.
And then I've seen certain companies that they look at the mean time between failures of parts and they'll say that this part is supposed to have 10,000 working hours. And when we get to like 9,980, we just replace it. Like we don't even take the chance for it to fail during operation.
Mm-hmm. Because
But
they're
that's, planned downtime is better than unplanned planned downtime. It just costs a lot more money because you have people on the dock, you have people waiting to do their job that if you would have planned, they wouldn't have even been there that day, where it would have cost you a lot less money in the process. Now you have food that can go bad because it's sitting out on the dock. You have all of this other stuff happening where if you would have just planned properly in the long run, it just costs less.
and
So
that goes for the human body, y'all. If you plan your downtime or plan your finances,
yeah.
life will be better than if you come across an emergency.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can't predict everything because things happen, and it's the same thing in automation. You can vouch for that, but a plan is better than no plan.
Hopefully, 100%.
And when I used to work, reason why I got out of the banking industry was because they started automating a lot of things. Like we started putting people to the ATMs to do everything. I mean, everything. And I was sitting there like, my job is not even going to be my job anymore because everything is going to be to the ATM. Now it has not happened yet, but it's getting there. And when it gets there, there's some banks branches that only have two bankers. And the
Yep.
only reason why those two bankers are there to make sure that the ATMs are not broke. And if they are broke, they're just a high paid customer service specialist to call the maintenance guy to come fix the ATMs for people to process their transactions. That's it.
You know the funniest thing about that? I remember calling Navy Fed one time and I was like, hey, I want somebody to update my credit score, to review my credit score. They were like, it's completely automated. We can't even do nothing about it. It
Yeah,
just generates it itself. He was like, the only time we can do anything about it is if it comes to one of us for further review. Other than that, it's the system does your credit score. I'm like, that's crazy.
it's crazy. It's, everything is becoming automated. Like even like we use AI, and that is a whole nother animal. Like AI's been around. It's been around. They just now introduced it to the public.
How
The
you like that
AI
Copilot?
now.
You been playing with
And I haven't played with it yet. Oh man,
Man,
let's dig into it. What are the
yeah.
most exciting new technologies in automation right now? Robotics, AI, IoT, etc. Like you talk about the Copilot. Let's talk about Gemini,
Man,
Copilot, all that. Let's go.
Gemini's okay. I like Copilot. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I like Copilot. And I think the most exciting thing to me, just in automation in general, like putting in the software and in the AI and everything, just in, you know, not necessarily just being stuck on industrial. I think some of the coolest things right now are the AI agents, the
Mm.
ones that you can train for just specific tasks. I got one that just goes through and marks all my emails on what type of email it is. Auto sets up a draft of reply if I want to send a reply. Like, I mean, just it's just so much easier. So I can kind of skim through the emails that are actually important. I can even have it do all my sortation and everything like that. I just give it access to my email and it just goes, right? Um, I think in the industrial side, I think we're coming to that point where, like I said, there's such a merge and
Hmm.
such a push for automation, like especially now, I think it's a stronger push now because of what happened during the pandemic.
Yeah.
That's where we found out we were actually essential workers because, manufacturing and warehousing can't stop because
Mm-hmm.
groceries have to be on shelves because somebody has to be able to eat because nobody's allowed to go out.
Yeah.
And I think after that, and then you have to understand how the market went, right? The market basically, this is the amount of employees, dwindle, 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 right? And then you kind of have this plateau of essential workers. But a lot of people that were in like customer service or front facing or customer facing roles either were on furlough, got laid off, in that type of role. But a lot of them did not come back because they either got comfortable working from home or found some other way to make money, something of that nature. And then what happened is then they stacked like how much they were willing to pay to get these people back. Because like prior to the pandemic in Vegas, it was like $10 an hour, $8, $9, $10 an hour for like minimum wage, like, McDonald's, stuff like that. They jumped that to like 15, 16, right? Just to incentivize labor force back.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is now you increased your labor costs artificially,
Yeah.
right? You could have waited for it to trend back to where, hey, people wanted to get out the house and, but that also sparked inflation. Everybody was getting paid more. Well, at least more than they were used to. We're
Yep.
not going to talk about all the scamming and stuff that was going on, but that's a different conversation. Um, But because you pushed that to that level, what became very hard, especially after the pandemic, was incentivizing people to do the type of work that we do, where like the differential might have been $10, $15 an hour, but it used to be $20, $30 an hour
Mhm.
differential, right? And because it's very hard to ask somebody to travel like this for $30, $35 an hour when I can stay at home, work at McDonald's for 22.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to travel. I get off at a reasonable time. I work 4 days a week. You know what I mean? I hit 4 10s and I'm good. And then I can just parlay.
Yeah.
But this industry ain't built like that. But this industry is built that if you put the time in, that differential is extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That you go from, let's say, $30, $35 an hour to, $60, $70 an hour.
Yeah.
Then that differential, even that employee that was working in fast food that might have snuck in at 22 is probably making 25 by then.
Yeah.
They because there's not a lot of head space in that space, right? So that's what it is. And the more people needed this labor force to come back that did not, the more they were willing to pay this upfront cost to automate to replace those jobs because they didn't feel like they were coming back.
Yeah.
And they didn't have enough money that was going to make sense long term to incentivize them to come back. Right? If I had to jump to $50 an hour to incentivize my operators to come back when I was paying them 30 before the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
now you multiply that across my whole organization. Now I'm paying double in payroll for the same labor force I had a year ago. That doesn't make any sense when I can take that money and replace that labor force with
Yeah.
somebody that once I pay for it, other than maintenance, that's what the cost is.
Yeah.
And that's why it's become so prevalent. The
And,
pandemic has accelerated it for sure.
and it put it out of the public's eye to realize that, hey, we can automate these things and use different systems. That's why, like, I've heard about the automation on the back end, but now with the human touch on the chats, the co-pilots, Siri was always been out. You can ask Siri to do some stuff for you and she'll do it, but now it's like a whole nother
Yeah.
level of it. Like and then people, I mean, you got to touch on this about people believing robots is going to take over the world. Like,
Oh, we was having a conversation the other
yeah,
day.
like they go take over the world. Like they're going to grow a brain of their own and start to do things, and now we're not going to be able to have control over them. And what was Will Smith's movie called? I Robot. They go
Oh
take
yeah,
I Robot and have red eyes and so,
I thought you were talking like Legend. What is it when he had the dog? But yeah, I mean, no, I know exactly. That is not the right question, right? Like that's how you. But when it comes down to quote unquote taking over the world, there are like three demarcation like marks that we would have to even get to even consider something like that as a possibility. Like I told you the other day, the scariest thing for me is probably automation. I mean, like AI in like military
mhm.
possession, where you use it for military tactics and stuff like that, because how it can be trained and how it tries to deviate to complete its task.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing for me currently. Do I think Skynet's going to be here? No. But do I think it could launch a drone and piss somebody off because it was basically given information and it was given basically something to classify and made a decision based on what you trained it to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the scary thing to me. But as far as those demarcation points, as we do what they call it's alignment drift is what they call it. So alignment drift is this, right? So you have these circles and they
Mhm.
slowly come apart, right? And what that alignment is human views and understanding versus machines views and understanding, right? And these are value systems that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not just views, but value systems and how we understand logically and emotionally the world around us
Yeah.
and what our morals are and so forth and so on. And I'll give you a prime example. Like if we went to the full extreme, the scary thing about it is if you gave an AI the concept or trained it on the concept to minimize human human discomfort or there was a better term. Right. But human hurt. Let's say human hurt.
Mhm.
AI may, if you give it enough information and enough access, may take out the human race and say, I've taken out a small portion of history, right? 7 billion people, but I have now indefinitely stopped human hurt.
Mm.
Which one is a larger one, infinite or 7 billion? Right? So that's why you have to be very careful in what you give it access to and what you train it to do, because the large language models and how they interpret context and how you put them in access to do certain things can cause a lot more damage than it having an opinion to take over the world. In that situation, it just did what you asked it to do,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't about me trying to conquer or create androids or nothing like that. Like it's not no Dragon Ball Z Android 13, Android 15, right? It's literally just you gave me a task, I completed a task.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the demarcation point is first getting to AGI. Right now we have generic, like really simple AI.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to basically artificial general intelligence, which makes it basically better at almost any task in the world than anybody who's a master in that craft.
Mm.
Better than any physicist in physics, better than any chess player in chess, better than any swimmer in swimming, like across the board, right? And I know you're like, how's AI swimming? But it's beside the point. I'm just saying, as far as in their domain, better than any mathematician, whatever you wanted to do. Knows how to ride a skateboard better than any skateboarder, right? May not be able to physically ride a skateboard, but knows how to better than anybody.
Yeah.
Um, And then you have ASI, which is artificial super intelligence. And that's where it could possibly start super alignment drift, right? Now, the issue is that most people speculate if we get to AGI, it may be overnight or within a couple years that we get to ASI.
Mm.
That's the thing. So they said we're about probably 20, 30 years off of anything remotely close to AGI. But here's the other demarcation point that nobody talks about. I know people have heard of quantum computing, but do you really know what quantum computing is, right? That's the point. If we get to quantum computing to where it is actually what scientists want quantum computing to be, right? And what do they have? So you basically have these atoms in superposition or electrons in superposition so that they can have different states. And when you have these quantum states, it's almost like an AI. You can't see what's really on the inside of it. You just get what comes out of it. You put something in, you kind of train it to have an expectation of what it is. And then after you put enough in, then you start giving it the real problems. But
Gotcha.
you partner that with AI, the amount of computation that a supercomputer like one of those quantum computers can do, if you get it to anything relatively close to what we have now as far as like how many units and how many bits we can use, I mean you're probably talking 100 times, 1,000 times faster than what we have right now. I mean it's orders of magnitude faster than whatever it is that we have right now. You'd have that
Mm-hmm.
plus AI on top of that and get the ASI. I can't call it at that point in time. It's a crapshoot. I'm gonna be honest with you. At that point in time, I can't tell you what it will be able to do at that point in time.
Well,
Um,
hopefully we gone by then. Let somebody else deal with it. Because woo,
and I mean, at that point in
that
time,
sounds dangerous. That
I,
sounds dangerous.
I'm turning into an android. I told my wife that I am uploading my consciousness. I am not playing that game with y'all.
Listen, listen,
Uh,
Brian. You done touched on some valid points, and I know people's head is spinning. You have showed them how to automate their money, and now they need to figure out if this is how they want to automate their money. Man, do you got any closing remarks for anybody? Like what they should know, where they should go, how they should try, how to reach you, like how to get in contact if they want to continue the conversation, like if they
yeah, I
know
mean,
they need automation, like you know.
yeah, I mean, you can definitely find me Brian Brevard on LinkedIn. Not really that hard to find. Obviously to say that I work for SS Automation, so and it will have my senior technology consultant as my title. So that's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. I will say as far as closing remarks, check out like I always say it's good to have a good understanding of math and a good understanding of electronics coming into this field. And there's some decent resources out there like Khan Academy. I don't care how good you are at math and stuff like that. I feel like it's always good for people to start from arithmetic and work back up through calculus. And on All About Circuits, they have like a workbook and everything like that that teaches you like basic electrical theory all the way through like digital circuits where you start understanding how computers are made. I think that pairing right there can definitely not just get you prepared for this, but it'll help get you prepared for like software or even IT as a good baseline. Like it's not going to get you all the way there, but it's going to give you a very good background. And it's not a lot enough work that if you put it in and you don't really have you know, um, a feeling like this is something that you want to continue, that you've wasted a lot of time,
Gotcha.
right? But that kind of lets you into the world without having you go all the way down that path. Because if you don't feel it entertaining or cool at that point in time, you may never. And there's not a reason to put a lot of time into something that you're not going to be passionate about. Because you'll never make money in this field if you're just lukewarm. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've seen a lot of lukewarm people when they get passed from company to company to company, but their salary basically stays the same, even though you're supposed to get a raise when you go somewhere else. Okay, I've seen people take losses just to stay employed because
Wow.
they're just not that good, right? So, I really behoove you to, if you're gonna wet your whistle, allaboutcircus.com, Khan Academy, go through the math, go through, their learning, see if it's something that interests you. If it is, keep going. Follow up. There's a lot of things um that you can find on the internet. There's a lot of like MIT open courseware. If you want to get an IT, Professor Messer, for like YouTube, he goes through all the IT certifications. Right. There's a lot of different ones that you can go through, and it's pretty cool if that's where you want to go. But those are a few paths that you can take, and like I said, get your whistle wet if that's something that you're looking forward to get into.
Well, you heard it first, man. I'm glad everybody's been open up to listen, and I'm glad he was able to wet your whistle in this automated money. So I recommend that you find a way that works for you, and if this is something that, like you said, catches your attention, do some digging and some research before you start reaching out to people, so you're not wasting people's time. But automation is a niche of its own, so just really like learn a little bit to see if that's something that really you get excited about every day. But on this episode of Automate Your Money, Brian, you killed it, man. I thank you for coming.
I appreciate it, kid.
Appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, so hey, salute to you. I know you out there making that money in North Carolina. Don't forget to pay your tithes and offering. Um,
Yeah, bro, I'll take my 10% off as soon as I get paid. Trust and believe that.
it just enjoy life. I'll be in touch, and you have a great rest of your day, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, buddy.